My Life Creative.
No, just normal, regular.
My
No, that's not regular. That's not regular.
Creative.
Can you say My Life Creative?
My Life Creative.
Tytia.
Tytia.
Yes.
So is that a family name, or did you...
No, my mom put together some letters, I think, and that's what she liked, and that's my name.
Your mom had a creative moment.
Yeah. I think I'm just a late bloomer. Everything I've done in life is about 10 or 15 years later than all my friends.
I hear
Habing.
ya.
It's the scientific name of a tiny, nondescript little brown butterfly. So,
No kidding.
yeah.
And welcome to My Life Creative. I'm Richard Zombek. I'm here with my wife, my partner, the Zig and my Zag, Pamela Joy.
Hello, Richard.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Great. Well, listen, we've got another great interview. This one's with Tytia Habing. But before we get to that, and before you tell us about Tytia, I do want to let our listeners know that they can go to MyLifeCreative.com, and you can find out all the background on all the podcasts. You can also find the archive of the podcasts and the myriad of ways to listen to us. Also, you can find out how to support us. Just go to the website. That's MyLifeCreative.com. Click on support, and you can find out how to support the show. So, Pamela, listen, why don't you tell us about this interview?
Well, I would be happy to. Tytia has quite a CV. I did put a link to her website in her show notes. And I'm astounded with her pictures. I think that her work feels very nostalgic. It feels like it's another place and time with people in contemporary clothing. So there's that allure of her. And I've just been curious how she got to where she is. I know she lived in the Cayman Islands for a while. And I like that she does a lot of different kind of work from her family. She lives on a rural farm in Illinois. And I think that the work is interesting. And because of where she lives and how she lives, I was very curious as to what her day-to-day looked like and how she creates and what her thoughts were on that. So that's what we talked about at length.
Great. Well, let's listen to that interview.
My Life Creative.
Well, so I thought that would be a great place to start, is you're growing up and your travels, because you ended up someplace extraordinary and now you're back. So I thought we would start with all of that.
Okay.
So growing up, what was that like for you?
I had a great childhood. I wouldn't change my childhood for anything. I grew up on a farm. We ran around. I had two brothers, older brothers. We did what we wanted all day, every day, and we were surrounded by nature. And our house is, well, it's a farm, but it's right inside of a woods as well. So we have woods, we have like open farmland. It's ideal.
When you say farm, what did your parents farm? Did they grow crops? Did they have livestock?
Yes, both. They grow corn, soybeans, wheat. They have cattle. When I was younger, we had hogs. They don't have that anymore, thank goodness, because it stunk. Yeah, and chickens. We have some chickens.
Now, did you get close to the animals? Were they kept for like milk or dairy or
no beef cattle? No,
beef
I didn't
cattle.
get close to them. I never liked the fact that they're beef cattle. I don't,
Yeah, I know. We've reduced the intake of. I got a weird thing this past year of just I don't know, but I don't know how did you. I guess if you grow up with it, it's not in your psyche to either love an animal or not love an animal, or it's just part of your day to day.
Well, I love all the animals, and my brother actually raises cattle too. He does most of the work now on the farm, but when the calves are born, they're so cute. I'm like, how can you then raise them to sell for meat? I couldn't do it. I really couldn't do it, but it's his livelihood. So,
Now, what growing up, when did you, because I think you started photographing at a young age.
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't?
No, I was almost 30 the first time.
Really?
Yeah, when I picked up a camera for the first time.
So you just lived wild and free and romped
I
around
did.
and your days were exploring. Anything stand out that was like...
I love being in nature. It's just so peaceful. I would go out on my own. I mean, at an even young age, and my parents have hundreds of acres, and they wouldn't know where I was. I would go lay in a field and look up at the clouds, like for half the day.
And hours would go by.
Yes. Yeah, I loved it.
Now, is your community mostly rural, I would take it?
Yes. Yeah.
You grew up with other kids at school who were living a similar lifestyle?
A few. The town that I went to school in has about 12,000 people, so most of the kids were, I guess, city kids, if you want to call them city kids. But there were just a few that farmed that I wasn't really friends with many farm kids, to be honest.
Oh, really?
No.
So you kind of just acclimated on into the whole...
Yeah, I remember being about 12 years old, or maybe I was 10, and I wanted to live in town. I just really wanted to live in town because all my friends were in town, and they always got to do things that I didn't get to do. And I actually thought my parents would move in town, which is hilarious now that
Be like your boy asking you to move into town now.
Right. Yeah.
Not going to happen, son. Huh. So let's jump ahead then. How in the world did you choose or get to the Cayman Islands?
Well, I went to university for horticulture, and I couldn't really find a job that paid anything at all. So then I went back to school again for a landscape architecture degree. And I was almost through. I only had to do 3 years because I had all my electives already. And I had 1 year left. And my best friend and I decided we were going to take a spring break. And we were trying to figure out where to go. And we wanted to go to the Caribbean. And we finally narrowed it down to Cayman Islands. So there we go. And we loved it. And when I got back, which I guess it would have been, I don't know when spring break is, March or April, I dropped out of school. Not immediately. I finished the semester. But then as soon as I was out of school in May, I flew down there and lived. And I was probably there, let's see how many years, 4 years. And then I decided I better come home and finish that degree because otherwise I would waste a bunch of money. So I flew back home, finished my last year of landscape architecture, went looking for a job, and couldn't find a job that paid me as much as I was making as a bartender in the Cayman Islands. So I moved back down there, and I stayed there for like 10 years. So,
wow.
Yeah. But in the meantime, I bartended, I waited tables for probably 10 of the years. And then I thought I really should try to use these degrees that I have. So my neighbor was actually a manager out at the Botanic Park on the island. So I talked to him, and I got a job out there as a manager. So I worked. Yeah, I worked at the Botanic Park for my last 6 years that I lived there. It's beautiful.
Oh, wow. That must have been like a dream come true in
It
many ways.
was severely hot, and I worked outside. But I worked outside bartending as well, so it wasn't that big of a difference. But yeah, it
always amazes me that bartending and waiting tables always seems to pay so much more than anything I've ever done or gotten myself into.
I made more money then than I do now. Way more, like twice as much money. And plus there's no taxes down there, and the dollar is worth more than our dollar, so I was raking in the dough.
That is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent many, many years in that industry.
You can't do it forever, though.
To like 35.
Right. Yeah, 35.
I
decided, I'm getting out of this. Once I turn 35, that's it. I don't care what I'm doing. I'm getting out of it because
I think that was the last job I had, this really swank, high-end restaurant bar, which I was always afraid something inappropriate was going to come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
So I was very quiet, and it wasn't the kind of place I had ever worked. I always worked in upscale places.
Oh,
but
I did.
in the bar lounge area, where the restaurant was somewhere in the property, but not in my immediate area. So we got people who were there to have fun, and it wasn't like language was, I didn't curse a whole lot, but if one flew out, it wasn't a problem. It was okay.
Yeah.
It was an appropriate moment or a laugh, but this was so different. And I was just miserable. I remember the maitre d' telling me one night, something about telling my face what maybe it should look like to appear to guests. I was miserable, and it was really obvious how miserable I was. I really didn't. I think that's what he said. Maybe you should pursue your day job a little harder so you don't have to come here at night, because you really don't look like you're having a good time.
That's exactly what happened to me by the end of it. I worked in a pub, so there was late nights and drunk people. I'm not a drinker really, so it was... You get obnoxious people, and by the end of it, I was just angry at everyone.
I couldn't even imagine the Cayman Islands. That's like the Florida scene where everybody wants a tropical drink.
Oh, yes. That's all we did. Blender drink.
Oh, yeah. So whoever called blender broken first got to have a broken blender for the night. When I worked in Florida, that was our thing. Yeah, whoever calls first gets it.
Right.
So because everybody wanted the frozen...
Oh, yeah, of course.
And they wouldn't tip. Anyway, not to go off on that tangent, but I think that's really funny that you worked in that. It speaks a lot to what you observed.
Yeah, and it's not in my nature. I'm quiet, and I just still can't believe that I bartended like that for that many years. It's just crazy.
So what was the Cayman Islands? Now, when you were there, you started photographing, yes?
Well, the way I started was when I came back to finish my landscape architecture degree, I had to fill an elective, and a photography class was something I saw, and the building just happened to be almost next door to the architecture building. So I thought, oh, that'll be easy. It's close. It won't take too much of my time, and I can just fill my elective. So that's what I did, and I got in the dark room, and oh my God, I was in love. That was my number one focus, was photography once I had that class. So
it's magical.
It
the
was
days
magical.
of dark room and art school, and it's like alchemy.
Yeah.
You just the quiet, the sounds,
I spent
the smell.
so many hours in there, and I totally didn't. I would just rush through my architecture projects just to get them out of the way so I could get to the dark room.
Now, what did you photograph them? What were your pictures like?
Back then, I don't know. They were pretty lame looking. Just farm scenes, and I think I took some pictures of my family. And then when I moved back down to Cayman, I would take some tropical, palm tree pictures. They weren't that great.
Do you still have any of them?
Oh, yeah. I have sleeves upon sleeves upon sleeves of negatives, a huge trove of them.
I would be interested to see a couple sometime.
Yeah.
I'll share mine if you share yours.
Well, I need to get something I can scan them on. I hauled my darkroom down there when I moved back down, and I had a darkroom the most of the time that I lived down there. And yeah, I was developing photos up until just a couple years before I left. So I have a lot of negatives. But again, I've evolved.
Yeah, I know. I look at the stuff I have from art school and I think, what in God's name were you doing? I took like all these clouds. Why?
Yes,
Why?
Cloud.
Just clouds after clouds. I was doing a cloud series, or I think I was afraid to really go. I wouldn't look at anything. Like I wouldn't look at any of the masters of photography. I'd look at art. I'd look at painters.
Yeah.
Here is the arrogance of like a 20-something.
Yeah.
I was afraid to be influenced.
Yeah, right.
I think I was afraid to see what great looks like, maybe deep down inside.
Well, I actually thought my photos looked great at the time. I'm like, oh, this is great.
I did too. And I look back now and go,
yeah, they're bad.
God, what were you doing? What were you doing? When I think back too of all the freedom, my whole days were just filled with school. Yeah. I did nothing else. I had studio, I had art history, and I had photography. And I think I would give anything to have all that time.
Right.
No worries, endless optimism. I think I'd tone the arrogance down, but
yeah,
it just really blows my mind how sometimes my head can say, see, you wasted it. And I didn't. It's all just anyway.
I think I'm just a late bloomer. Everything I've done in life is about 10 or 15 years later than all my friends.
I hear you.
Having kids, getting married, finding what I want to do with my life, everything. So
Well, that's a beautiful way to put it. So you met your husband in the Cayman Islands?
I did,
Is
yeah.
that where you guys met?
Yes.
And then you had a boy?
Mm-hmm.
And then you decided to move back.
We did. It's hard to have a child as an expat because you can't send your kids there to school. So you have to send them to a private school, which was very expensive. We couldn't have afforded it. And it was just too expensive for us to live there. Plus we got tired of having to get work permits, and I did get residency, so that made it a little easier, but it was still a pain. So plus we wanted to be near our family, or well, near my family, I guess, just so he has, grandparents and cousins and aunt and uncles. And so, yeah.
So would you say at all that he sort of began maybe where things shifted for you in terms of, or I've talked with some moms that at the very beginning, they really wanted, they started photographing, and then over the years they got everything shifted and things changed, and really they carved out a path from there.
I think
they knew what they wanted to do. So I thought that I would just have you talk about what it was like for you.
Well, obviously I was photographing before he was born, but once he was born, I really didn't take pictures. I took a few when he was from maybe, born to 1.5. I didn't hardly take any pictures. I think I was just exhausted because I was working full time but I think what turned for me was when I moved home. I know the land. I love the plants and the farm, and everything switched as soon as I moved home. That's where I began. But he was included in that. So it was kind of a combination of the two, I guess.
Well, that's a good segue into your series, This Is Boy, because that seems like a lot of, it has all of those elements that you just talked about. He's in your landscape. I almost get the sense sometimes looking at him that I'm looking at a self-portrait of you.
Yeah.
If you could have gone back and photographed yourself at that time.
For sure. That's just how I grew up. And I don't have any photos included in, I don't think, any of my projects that he was in Cayman. I don't think I have any. So
No, the ones I've seen all look like they're from either the States, either your farm or where you've traveled with them.
Yeah, I think so. I've even looked back at the photos from Cayman, and there's nothing that I'm drawn to, I guess. I don't know. It's the landscape that sparked it with me.
It's like your place.
Yeah,
your
my home. Yeah.
You sense the place. So how does he figure, or how do you work with him? Because I'd imagine he doesn't always strike me as the boy who'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll do this, I'll do that. Do you just catch him doing things, or does he interact with you?
I catch him mostly. When he was younger, it was a lot easier. I would just always have my camera, and I would just photograph him. And every once in a while, he would do something, and then I'd miss it, and I'd say, can you do it again? But 99% of the time, it didn't work out, and the picture was bad. I either have to get it spontaneously, or it's just, I can't get a good picture. But now it's a little different that he's a little bit older. I'll have him not really pose, but he might do something, and I'll say, oh, freeze, or can you do that again? And then I can get the shot.
And does he like it? Does he like to participate in it?
Yeah, it's both ways. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. I mean, if I go and take pictures of somebody else, there he is, jumping in front of the camera. And I'm like, get out of the way. I'm not taking your picture right now. Okay. But then sometimes I'll ask, can I take your picture? And now I'm busy, so. But it goes both ways. But he's pretty good.
Well, I'm always struck by there's always a very specific kind of light, it seems. There's almost like a spotlight, if you will.
Yeah, and
on many of them.
Yeah, and I'm training him. He'll come up to me, Mom, you got to come look at this light.
Really?
Oh yeah, or he'll find
How cool is that?
He'll find a cool bug, or anything cool. He'll come and say, you get your camera. You got to get this. So, I'm training.
So, how did you teach yourself to look at light, or is that something you naturally see?
I naturally see it. I've always been fascinated with how light hits things, and especially water. That light that reflects through water is just, or you may be an old window. just that light is just beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's always the spotlight. It almost looks like it, and it's not external, because I know it's not external because of the quality of it.
Yeah.
But it's very specific. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's
it
not
does. Someone asked me if I could ever shoot like commercial photography and replicate what I do, and I'm like, no, I don't think I can. Maybe someone that's a pro lighter can do something like that, but I just can't see me being able to do that. Plus, I don't want to. I like natural light. And
I love that one of him in the pool with the water, the empty pool with
yeah.
water in the tube.
The pool broke, and we had to drain half of it, and you saw the pipe shooting the water out. It was like that for quite a while till we got it fixed. So they just went ahead and swam.
Made the most of it.
They did, yeah.
There's another one. Which other one is that one that's got like all these little, I don't know if they're little seeds or something in the air. I don't even know how you got all of them in the air like that. They're like little berries or maybe they're soybeans or some kind of pod from a soybeans. That's what it's called. Duh. There's the title. Soybeans.
Was that in the back of the truck?
No, it's right on it's just a portrait of him. You see the landscape and you just threw up all these it's like he threw all these seeds in the air, and it reminded me of that, I don't know, I can't remember the photographer's name who did these composites where there would be suspended pieces in the air in front of a tree or over a little altar on the ground. I'd have to look it up. I wouldn't even know where to start. I remember he won a couple different awards last year, the year before, and just how they're positioned and hanging over him.
Yeah,
it's cool. So, which ones of these do you sink into that you maybe can think about or talk about it? How you create, how it evolved, like how either the picture happened, if it was spontaneous, or if you saw something, or especially the ones with the guns, because I know little boys play with guns, and it's like and you live on a farm, so you obviously have guns. At the same time, what's going on in the world is insane. So how do you reconcile, or were these, I'm sure, I know you in the sense that I think that I'll do that, I'll make this to create that, right? I think this is just your boy, but they're very specific, especially the first one in your gallery of This Is Boy, where he's...
Oh, yes, that's one of my favorites. That gun is made out of cardboard, and his older cousin cut it out with his X-Acto knife or scissors or something, and he taped it all together and made a gun. It's like solid. It's a really nice little play gun.
Kidding.
Anyway, he stole it from grandma's and brought it home, and this is in our backyard. And he was outside playing, and there was a storm coming in, so the lighting was really beautiful. And he was just doing his thing, and I took his picture. So that's how that one came about.
You do get beautiful light with the storms.
Yes, if there's a storm, I'll be like, "You want to go outside?" Like I try to help, pictures come about, but I won't tell him to go do something, really. I don't need to. He just does stuff.
Now, how about some of these with him in his little mask? He's got a couple different...
Yeah, he has tons of masks. Tons. He
likes Halloween,
he goes through little phases. Like, when he was maybe 4, he was very into it, and then he wasn't, and he is now again, now that he's 8. He likes Batman again. So, yeah, he's always running around in a mask or something weird. Or his helmet. He runs around in his helmet a lot.
So what does your day-to-day look like with him, with your life? Just walk me through a normal day in your life.
Well, I'll walk you through a summer day.
Okay.
I usually get up out of bed. He wakes up first. He'll get me up. I'll make my coffee, and my husband's usually still there. We'll leave, me and Theron, and we'll come down to my parents because I have coffee with my parents every morning at 8:30. And my brother also comes at 8:30, and we all have coffee, and we sit on the front porch and drink our coffee until about 9 or 9:30.
That's nice.
And Theron will play. He'll immediately usually go out to the barn and grab his 4-wheeler and start tearing around. And then My brother will go off to work. My parents will go do their thing. And I come in the studio and get to work. And Darren just does his own thing all day. He'll just play.
So what does get to work for you mean?
I usually edit photos, or I don't know, I'm framing stuff, or I also do client work. So if I'm doing client work, I, have to order books or email people, stuff like that. Yeah, it's not really that exciting. I think I do more like business type stuff than I'd like to, but having a business, you have to.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I don't know how people keep up with the Instagram, the Facebook, the other Facebook, the website, the client side, the thinking of clever things to say, the all the of the above. It's the work of many people. In addition to you're a mom, you're a wife. I'm sure you have like cooking, cleaning, laundry, all that nonsense.
Well, I have all that, but the cooking. My husband actually does most of the cooking. So.
Oh, he does.
Mostly,
that's nice.
He does. I do all the other stuff.
That's a wonderful thing.
It is. Yes, it is.
So, do you ever get in? How do you deal with the peaks, like ups and downs, the highs, the lows, the in betweens, the disappointments, the successes? How do you roll within all of that? Have there been disappointments or frustrations, or I'm assuming there are, and then how do you work through those, or how do you get through them?
I just wait them out, to be honest, because I don't feel creative all the time, and sometimes I won't. Like this summer has just been, I feel like I'm promoting stuff and trying to get into things and email more than I'm actually photographing, which kind of sucks the life out of it. But I guess I'm coming to realize that that's just part of it. But I miss taking pictures, so I really have to get out and take some more pictures. But I just wait out things. You can't force it. And you
trust that it's on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
So what's a situation that you went through that maybe you can? I don't know if any of these series, like The Gift or your self portraits. It's complicated. The whole family, any of these the injured, anything that you've gone through that you started and then maybe you went, what am I doing here? Or were there other dead end projects that then evolved into?
Million dead end projects. Well, I don't really want to call them dead end yet. I still think about some of them, and maybe they'll evolve at some point. But a lot of my projects I just have shot things and I don't shoot them for a project. But then later I'm like, oh, that's a project. And then I start pulling images and put them together that way. But like injured, I specifically shoot for that. If someone gets hurt, first I make sure they're okay. And then I'm like, can I take your picture? So that one I shoot specifically for. The Gift I shoot specifically for. The whole family, I don't. Swim, I didn't really. It's complicated. I pulled together because I had a picture on the cover of the Sun magazine, and a woman wrote in that she disapproved because Theron was crying in the picture, and she kind of thought I was an awful mother for sticking a camera in his face when he was crying.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I went back through all my pictures and just pulled together a bunch of photos that I thought didn't reflect the, most pictures of kids are happy and joyful, and I went the opposite way because kids aren't always happy and joyful. They can be little jerks. They can cry. They, they're little humans. They have all kinds of complex feelings, just like we do. So so that was that, and the other ones, like my self portraits.
Love yourself.
That's just something. Every once in a while, I'll feel the urge to take a picture of myself. It's rare. I haven't done one in ages, but every once in a while I do, and then if I like it, I'll add it to the project.
They remind me a lot of film stills.
Yeah, I get people are convinced I shoot with film, but I don't. Not anymore. I did, but I don't anymore.
Oh, I mean like Cindy Sherman-esque, like her early work, like film stills. They look like you filmed and
yes, I
cut
see. Yes.
a moment. They have a very theatrical sense about them that they feel like they're clipped from a larger context.
I see. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
All of them do. I mean, how they fit together. It's like they're very interesting how you've pulled them and presented them.
Well, I'm glad you think they fit together because I wonder sometimes. Because I don't know if I specifically pulled them to fit together. I just took self-portraits and then I put them into my project. So I always wonder, like, is it cohesive? I don't know.
You know, let's talk about that if you don't mind, because I would love your thoughts on it. There's a lot of times that I see work that I either don't understand. I had a really hard time in art history, actually, with contemporary work. I didn't get it. I absolutely, there were things that I didn't understand. The whole conceptual work, which I actually got to a point where I said, so it's a flawed concept because you still needed to have the work. The explanation of the work was the work.
Right.
And concept work in its purity was you did not need the end result. You just needed the idea. But to express the idea, so my point is it got very complex, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times, particularly with photography, the people be all going nutso over an image. And I look at it and I go, I don't get it. What am I missing? I mean, I feel like an idiot sometimes, and I'm probably more schooled in things than most. And the academics of photography still sometimes baffle me. I don't understand it. I either respond or I don't. And if I don't, no intellectual language around it, unless it's really, once you know the intent and you see the whole series, then I can kind of go, oh,
yeah,
okay.
I pretty much feel the same way. Sometimes I think I just must be old-fashioned. I don't know.
Me too. I feel old.
Yeah, I like photos to stand on their own. I don't want to have to think about how they all connect, I guess. I don't know. And I have...
The story person in me likes the connections,
Yeah.
like especially with the family books. I look for transitional images. You have to. I think about that when I'm shooting. What's a good panoramic that would feed into this? What's a segue into... How do you go from summer to fall? What's a nice transition to that? I'm not always successful because I forget or I get lost and whatever, but I think that I'm stronger with a collection versus I'd like to be better at a single.
Yeah.
So you're like a master of the single.
Well, what I mean is I want all of them to stand on their own as well as go together. If that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. Because some projects, there'll be a few really great photos and then there'll just be something that you're like, it's just not a great photo to me. It goes with the grouping of photos, but on its own, you'd be like, what the heck? What is that? You know what I mean? But yeah, that's the old fashioned in me, I think. And I hear a lot of, and I hate to say older photographers, we're not that old, but you know what I mean? They're like, oh, these young kids these days, how they shoot. I don't want to be that person. But
No, it's interesting to go because when I first started, I had a lot of those resentful feelings like, listen, I've had to pay my dues. How come it's so easy for you all? And then I kind of got around the whole, that's about me. This has nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with what I'm internalizing and this whole. And the more that I just sort of like did my own thing, every now and then it can creep up and like stifle me, where I just think, God, you suck. I'm not supposed to say that word. That'll have to be bleeped out. But here, like you just, do you ever get those feelings of just like,
oh yeah,
what is going on here?
Oh yeah. Several times a year for sure. Yeah.
And then the flip side, do you ever have times when you go, wow, I'm just so pleased with us?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's up and down. It's up and down all the time. I mean, I one day I'll feel great and literally the next day I feel like garbage, like I'm the worst photographer in the world and I don't know what I'm doing or why I'm bothering. But I think we all feel like that. I mean, I talk to a lot of friends and everybody goes through that. Mm. And then you have people say, oh, I love your photos. And you're like, why? Why?
So do you have any things that you do to lift yourself up out of those times? Do you do anything specific?
I try to just get away from it because sometimes I get bogged down in the business side of it, and it just really sucks my soul out. So I try to get away and go outside and just honestly just sit outside. That's what I do.
Sit outside and look at clouds.
Yeah, sit outside, feel the nice breeze, and maybe go for a swim or a walk or something.
And what do you do in the winter?
I'm usually depressed in the winter. I'm not a winter person, which was a big reason, another reason that I moved to Cayman, because I don't do winter well. I don't like it. I don't even like fall because I know what comes after fall.
What's coming.
Otherwise,
I'm right there with you.
Otherwise, I would love fall, but no.
I felt the first pang of that last week. There was just a day when you could feel the coolness in the air.
Yeah.
And I just was like, my heart sank. I'm like, I actually cried later on in the day. I was tired. I was emotional, all these different things. And I was sitting and I'm just like, just sit and watch it. You know what it is. And no, about like Halloween, sometime in there, I'll flip into, okay, I can do this for the next couple months and then line up enough work or things to do to get out of here January, February. But I'm with you. I'd like to pack up and go the 1st of November and come back May 1st.
I know. Well, I just saw
like
we
it.
have one tree that always loses its leaves before every other tree. I'm not sure what kind of tree it is, but the leaves were starting to fall off a couple of days ago. I'm like, what? It's not even. Anyway, it'll probably. And once they start falling, they're within like a week or two, they're all gone. So it's just depressing.
Well, you did take some of Theron in the winter in playing hockey and your frozen pond and the weather elements, the atmosphere.
Just a few, very few. I go into like a deep, dark depression in the winter, and I'll go through my summer and spring files in the winter. That's usually what I do. Plus, I don't really take client work in the winter because who wants their picture taken in the winter? Nobody. So.
Now, do you still do the same routine and having coffee with your parents every day?
Yes, we just don't sit on the front porch.
Sit inside in the warm.
Yeah, we do sit with a fire.
That's really so nice that you have that.
Yeah.
And your brother.
Yeah.
And you have a tight family.
Yeah, we do.
Well, let's just end on that with the whole family dam, which I think you've just started to show maybe more of. I don't know if you've just decided to show more and you've been. I'm loving the ones on the truck, and
I have so many of them. I just thought I'm just going to put these together because I have people. Well, when they email, they'll talk about their lives went back in the day and how they grew up, and they just think my family's so interesting when they see the pictures. I'm like, really? But anyway, I thought I would put them together because maybe other people think they're interesting. They're normal to me. Do you know what I mean? But other people are fascinated by some of them. So I thought, I'll show them.
Well, there's a nostalgia to it, right?
Yeah.
That's what I get more than anything. It almost feels like in the 1940s with contemporary clothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's striking how much I feel like I'm looking at, what was that show? Andy, remember the sheriff?
Oh, shoot. Now that you mentioned I could.
Ron Howard was in it.
Yeah.
And they used to start with the whistle.
Yeah.
Andy Griffin. Andy Griffin show. Yeah. This is what it reminds me of Mulberry. I mean, it does. It has that feeling. And then, you come across one of Theron in his skull and crossbone pajamas with the cat.
Yeah.
So let's end on I got to know about that cat that you had. That cat was just.
You mean the ones in the picture?
The gray one. The one who was.
But are you talking about the one in the picture where he has the skull pajamas?
I was talking about that one, but
okay.
He's got a thing with cats and animals.
Oh,
and
he loves cats.
You have like that, I can't remember if she's still alive.
Oh, Bob Brown? Are you talking about Bob Brown?
Yeah, the gray.
The Russian, like a Russian blue.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, she's still kicking. She's around.
She's like a she-devil.
She is. And not only does she look like it, she really is just a beast. But she rules the house. She goes in and out at her leisure, and she eats first. We have 4 cats now, not from our choosing, but because people dump cats out in the country, and I can't say no.
Yeah.
So we have way too many cats. Anyway, when I put the food outside, she eats. All the other cats sit there and watch her, and when she's done, they can eat. So yeah, she's something. And we can't really pet her. Theron can pet her, and she won't scratch him, but we can't really pet her. She doesn't like attack you, but she'll let you know, like, don't touch me, or you will get it.
Doing my own thing.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can end it on that note. This was really cool. I liked a lot of things that you had to say through. I'd have to go back and listen to the one part where you said, I just let it go, or I just let it move through me. Like the times when times are like intense or frustrating or whatever.
Yeah,
you just let them move through you, and you know there's something on the other side.
Yeah, years ago, I would get kind of panicky, like, oh my God, I've lost it. I have no creativity left in me. But it always comes back. And it almost always depends on me getting outside. Once I get outside, it rejuvenates me. I just need to be outside and by plants and in the sun.
That's your zeitgeist.
Yes, it is.
That's
and I so many artists are like, oh, well, I have to be depressed or I have to have turmoil in my life to create. I'm complete opposite. If I'm unhappy or upset, I can't even pick up a camera. I can't do it. I have to be in a good mood. I have to be happy and joyful. Otherwise, it's pointless to even try.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks
I
for
will
having me.
follow up with you on the backside.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any thunderstorms interrupt our talk together.
No, but I'm sure we will.
We'll get some good pictures of it.
All right.
Light and storms. Thank you.
It's nice talking to you. Bye.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
This has been another episode of My Life Creative with Richard Zombeck and Pamela Joy. You can find us online at MyLifeCreative.com, where you'll find more information about us, our guests, and while you're there, please consider supporting the show to help us produce more content like this.
Oh yeah, can you feel it? Just over the credits, just riffing now. Words and chords. Not the poetry and the real thing, but not bad for an ad-lib. Not good, but... And it's not long enough, so just do a little bit more. And that's nearly done. That's the final credit there. That's the end.